I feel like we have been unconsciously taught that parenting is this one-way relationship where it's like the parents doing so much for the children and we're giving them so much. And to really connect means that both people energized by this relationship, that both people in that connection, they bloom, that they're left more inspired, they're left more energized, they're left more like really loving life, or being empowered in life or resilient in life. I mean, when we ask parents, like, what do you want for your children? A lot of parents are like, I just want them to be happy. I want them to be successful. I want them to, have great relationships and pursue what it is that their heart desires. How do we get there? Like, how do we as a parent support our kids' happiness and joy and resilience in life? And I believe that connection is key.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Your business performance depends on how well things are at home. Now, you may take a little offense to this, but I really do believe that things are connected. We have to be able to perform great at work. And if we're pulled in different energetic ways or stress or overload from our home life, it's going to impact how we lead, the decisions we make, the things that we see as possible. And hopefully you've got the kind of relationship at home that is worth improving and really putting in the time it takes for you to be a better dad or a better mom and connecting with your children. Today, we have a very special episode, very different than normal, but we have a friend of mine on who works with parents to help them better connect with their children. And her name is Yummii Nguyen. And Yummii and I, talk about the things that are getting in the way of our children and the relationship. And really, we try to fix our children, but the reality is they don't need to be fixed. The problem is connection. We unpack that inside this conversation with Yummii, and you will find that just listening to this will be a giant, let me back up a second. Just listening to this will be a giant step in you understanding how you can be a better parent. This one episode will change your home life if you really understand it. Now, I'm going to give you additional resource in there a little bit later if you want to get a special training that she's put together. And this really is just to better serve you and my audience to take it to the next step. Do you want something special in this case? It's really designed to help you understand your child better and connect at a deeper level so that you can perform your business. Well, all you have to do, listen in a little bit of this episode, see if it's a good fit for you, and then you can follow that link and go from there. So here's the interview with Yummii. Hi, Yummii.
Hey, Gene.
How are you?
Really good. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you today.
Well, I'm excited too. It's going to be a little bit different than normal. So I'm going to let you frame in your work, what you're up to, and really what you stand for.
Yeah, thanks, Gene. So my name is Yummii Nguyen, and I work with parents. I work with a lot of extremely successful parents where they do so well in their business and in their companies that they created, and they struggle at home, right? They struggle at home with their connection with their kids. And what I really stand for is to be able to be, someone in the world where you're living your purpose, you're living your passion, but you're having that in alignment with what's going on at home as well. And I think a big thing that parents struggle with, especially the ones that have their own businesses and doing great things out there in the world, is this inner conflict of how to show up being the parent that I want to be at home without compromising my work, or feeling like they're choosing work over their family life. So I want to be able to support a lot of parents in this journey, to really love parenting and not feel like they're compromising on what they're here to do.
I know in some of your work, you have mentioned about how important it is to business performance to have things right at home. And I don't think anybody would disagree, because even though, they would tell you to leave your emotions at the door or all of those things, the reality is they follow us with us. So if something's out of alignment, if things aren't going well with their kids or our wife or spouses in any ways, we really do bring that into the business world, whether we like it or not.
Absolutely. I mean, we're human beings, right, Gene? And so let's say you're feeling really inspired and connected at home, right? And you have great relationships with your children and your partner. That energy, if you bring that into work, you're making choices and you're leading from a different place. You're leading from an empowered place. You're leading from a generous place. You're leading from an inspired place. And equally, I feel, if we are challenged at home, if the disconnection is really strong and there's conflict, and we have created a business and we are pursuing our dream and putting it out there comes a point where we're like, what's this all for? I don't have anyone to share it with. And even when like things are going really well at work and you want to celebrate it and you come home and there's disconnection, it has that bittersweet experience. Or if things are going really like, challenging at work, and then you're coming home and you're knowing why you're doing the work, it's for the family, but you feel like your kids are ungrateful, it really takes your, like, it kills at you, right? Like, you're like, why am I doing all of this? Why am I suffering through all of this for feeling like unappreciated?
Sometimes I'll get into my coaching and I'll ask a client, they'll talk about overwhelm at work.
Yeah.
And then I say, I'm kind of curious, what happens at home when you bring that same energy to your relationship with your spouse or your kids? It's never good, right? It's
Yeah.
always someone will say something I think is a pretty good thing. Well, work gets the best of me and my family gets the worst of me.
Yeah.
You've heard this before, right?
Yeah.
What do you, in your work, like you're working with a lot of parents to help them better connect with their kids? Like we know what that means. But what is it? Like unpack that better connecting with your kids for us.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I feel like we have been unconsciously taught that parenting is this one-way relationship where it's like the parents doing so much for the children and we're giving them so much. And to really connect means that both people energized by this relationship, that both people in that connection, they bloom, that they're left more inspired, they're left more energized, they're left more like really loving life, or being empowered in life or resilient in life. I mean, when we ask parents, like, what do you want for your children? A lot of parents are like, I just want them to be happy. I want them to be successful. I want them to, have great relationships and pursue what it is that their heart desires. How do we get there? Like, how do we as a parent support our kids' happiness and joy and resilience in life? And I believe that connection is key.
I listened to some of your training because I'm very fascinated with your work. And I think you do a great job with talking about some of the things that we're experiencing as parents. But I also feel like we make excuses for our kids. And I'll admit here, I have a teenager and we will say things like, well, they're just being a teenager. They're being moody, or they're not communicating well because it's just not natural to them at this point in life. They haven't developed those skills and that sense of awareness. And we make those excuses. But here's the reality. It's, after listening to your training, you help me reframe this a little bit. It's really about, are we truly helping them feel heard, seen, and understood? And tell us a little bit more about why that's such an important piece inside of parenting.
Oh, this is so great, Jean. As a leader, right, in your business, we coach so much, and you might do this with your clients on like hearing what they're not saying, right? When we're talking about performance, we're always asking, we're listening to the people that work with us about what is it that they're not saying. There's things that they're saying, but what is in that background? What is in the unsaid? Because everyone's always communicating. Like our children are always communicating with us, but we just misunderstand it. Yeah. So, whether it's your teenagers or the people that you work with, everyone has this longing to be seen, heard, and understood. And if we can't go beyond our own reaction to what our teenagers are doing, if we can't go beyond our triggers, we miss out what they're communicating. When your teenager's giving you one-word answers, it's communicating, I'm really hijacked right now, or I'm swamped internally, or like I'm so overwhelmed, or there might be something going on and I have no idea on how to process that. They're communicating to you their internal state. But if we only see it for what it is on the surface level, we can't meet them where they're at to help lead them and help guide them to build that resilience to move through these spaces.
Here's where I'm curious on something. What are the enemies of connecting with our kid? Like what's getting in the way specifically so that we understand this and we can recognize them when we feel those things inside our relationship?
Oh, there's two things that I love this question, Jane. The first thing is expectations. There is an unconscious thing that we have expectations on our kids and where they should be and how they should behave and what connection looks like. And the conditions, we have expectations and the conditions that are needed for that connection. So expectations are, especially on our kids and especially on ourselves, are things that will kill the connection. And the second thing is taking things personally. I think as parents, it's so easy, especially in the teenage years, where our teenagers coming home and they're giving us one-word answers, or they're not sharing their appreciation because they're just so hijacked by their own stuff that we take it personally. Like they are not appreciating me, they're rude to me, they like doing this on purpose. purpose. And so we take it really personally, not recognizing that in the teenage years, the brain's changing. Like they're basically a newborn again, right? Like if, we have so much sincerity for newborn babies, and literally your teenager, like their brain at 12 years old is changing, and it's like a new brain is forming. Like they're like a brand new person. And so the taking things personally is a real killer for connection.
I appreciate you unpacking those for us. Inside the training that I was mentioning that I was able to watch of yours, because I want to be a better dad. I want to provide that level of connection, and I want to understand my son better, and I want to help my wife as well. And you mentioned inner child and really how that gets in the way of our parenting. I don't know if a lot of people are aware of this concept of the inner child. Can you explain that to us, and then explain why it gets in the way of our parenting?
Yeah, incredible. So if we, I'm just trying to think of an example. Like, so the inner child, right, is how you were basically brought up. And there's parts of you, if you are like triggered by your child, by certain emotions that they have, like whether it's their grumpiness, whether it's their anger, there probably is some part of you as a child that had to suppress that or were judged for having those same emotions. And so it's like you're not going to be able to learn how to swim unless you get into the water and understand how that feels like, right? And so that's the same thing with the inner child. Like whatever we get triggered by with our children probably has an indicator or reflecting back something that we haven't processed when we were younger. So we don't know how to navigate it. We don't know how to navigate anger when our child is angry. We don't know how to navigate, the sadness when our child is sad. And so we're constantly trying to fix our children when they have these difficult emotions. But when our children are having difficult times, especially in teenage years where they're going through anxiety and frustration and sadness and disappointment and having to like experience failure at a different level, they don't want us to fix them. They want us to be there. And so the inner child really is our journey to be able to look at those parts of ourselves that block us from being able to be really intimate and connect with our children without needing to judge them, fix them, or think that they should be better.
Now, hold on for a second. You and I have been talking about this training. If you want to get access to a special training that I have taken myself and find really valuable, I want you to go to genehammett.com/children. It's a really easy email or link for you to use. Just go to genehammett.com/children. Inside there is an absolutely free, no login required, short video to help you understand how to better connect with your kids. And don't you want a better connection? Just go to genehammett.com/children. Now back to the interview with Yummii. When we talk about inner child, I'd love for you to share, I don't know, a story or an example inside your work that you do of where this was getting in the way and what happened after they were able to address that in a very healthy way.
Oh, this is so incredible, Jean. I've got this client. She's a CEO of a tech company, and, she grew up with really like strict parents, right? It was like always, like the having her to, do the right thing, be the perfect daughter. And so she grew up quite disciplined and striving, a lot of striving. And there was no room for her to make mistakes. And if you were to make a mistake, there was like judgment, right? So she grew up in like this perfectionist kind of behavior or household. And this client had a teenage son who goes through a really, one of the top private schools here in Sydney, Australia. And he's struggling with drugs at the moment and vaping. And they've been dealing with this for a couple of years now. And each time it's always been her punishing him or putting consequences in, and then he'll lie to her, he'll do it behind her back and so forth. Now she's come to me where she's like, I'm giving up. Like I have no idea what to do. Like I'm over it. I'm really struggling. I'm over it. I have no idea what to do. How do I turn this around? So then I coach her through this. And what was really happening was like she was placing her inner child angst on failure, on what other people think, on her experience of not being good enough, like her own stuff of not being good enough, all onto this circumstance with her son. And in doing this, he can't connect with her and really share with her what's going on. So anyway, here's the coaching I gave. Are you ready, Jean?
Yep.
So she had tickets for him to go to this incredible tennis match. So we've got like, I think a few weeks ago, we had the Australian Open on, and she was going to take all his friends to see the tennis. And she's like, you know what? I feel like I'm going to take that away from him. I don't think he deserves it. I really want want to punish him. And I said, okay, so here's the coaching. Here's the coaching I gave her. I said, you're still going to take him to the tennis and you're going to love him up. You're going to write him a letter of all the things that you're proud of with him, because we understood that his love language was words. And you're also going to share with him how you can see that he might be struggling at the moment and it must be really hard, but you're not going to punish him. You're not going to talk about it. You're not going to put any consequences, and you're going to still fulfill on taking him to the tennis with his friends. And she was like, hell no. Like, this is like, he's lied to me. He's doing all this stuff behind my back. We spend so much money on private school education. Like, this went against everything that she was taught. Like, she was taught to be punished. She was taught that you got to be better. She was taught that, that you got to honor your word and all of this. I'm not saying that this stuff isn't important. It is, but you got to find the right timing to be able to work through this with your teenager. And it's like work. Like, you're not going to be able to help someone perform better if they are in fear, if they don't feel safe with you. No matter what coaching you give them as their CEO, they can't hear you. So it requires such a safe space. So then when she could meet her own stuff, her own anxiety of failure and her own stuff of not being perfect, of getting in trouble when she was younger, and just meet that with compassion, she was able just to let go. And then here's what miraculous happened. 1 week later from all of this, she's gardening. Her son comes out and joins her. And her son says, hey, Mom, I want to tell you what's going on. And he shares everything. Not from her probing, not from consequences or punishment, but he shares everything that's been going on. And she's like, wow, like, this is the first time he's actually done this. And she said there was this moment where, they were gardening and then he had to go back in, and she thought, okay, well, that's it. Like, he probably doesn't want to share anymore. He comes back out and he goes, so while I'm being honest, there's more that I want to tell you. And he continues on, and she's like, I've never heard him communicate so much.
I love this story, and it really helps us understand how this actually connects to the business world, because imagine the energy that she has coming back into the office when she's no longer burdened by the stress and doubt and whatever else we carry with us from our home life is really taken care of. Like, this is the reason why I wanted to have you on the show, because very different content than we normally have. But Yummii, I really respect you and your work, and I respect that all of my audience wants to be a better parent. I know it's not just me, and you're striving at it. And maybe you don't even have the tools to, where do you go next? Is it a book you read, or is it something you do? But I've mentioned this training thing. I just want to go ahead and say, what really got you to put together this training to help parents understand their children?
I put together this training because parenting is this thing that we assume that we should know how to do, but it's a learned skill, just like leadership is a learned skill, just like listening is a learned skill. And when it comes to something like parenting and relationships, where we have this unconscious expectation of we should know better, but really it's a learned skill, it takes the enjoyment out of why we became parents in the first place, right? And I put together this training because I really wanted to break down the key elements of what it is our children are really seeking from us, and really to tell parents that what our children really want is to see us thriving. They want us to win at life. They want us to do well, so that we are so much in our joy that we can meet them with that compassion when they're struggling, right? We're so much in our joy. We're so much in our being. We're so proud of who we are that we can meet them when they are going through really difficult times, so that we can have and hold space for what they're going through. But when we're stressed, we're constantly wanting to fix them, and we think they're the problem. I get that there is a problem, but they're not the problem. The problem is connection. And we can't connect and guide and lead if we're overwhelmed and judging ourselves and thinking that they're the problem. I mean, it's similar to what you coach, Jean. You can blame your team. You can blame your team all you want, but at the end of the day, it's, you're the leader.
Yeah, I think that parents need to take a really hard look at this. We put together a little bit of a special link for you. I'm going to go ahead and give that link to you now, and then let you frame in what they can expect when they get there. So if you're interested in getting the training we've been talking about, and I'm doing this only to serve you, if you want to have a better connection, just go to jeanhammett.com/children. And so just really simple URL for you to go get this. It's absolutely free. There's no logins that you have to go through. It just will give you you a lot more of an understanding of how you can move as a parent and through a more powerful connection. What would they get when they or what would they see when they get there, Yummii?
Well, they're going to see an incredible training video that is going to be a really short video where they get the 3 things that they need to understand to help create a better connection with their children, right? And they're going to fundamentally see, okay, wow, that's what I'm doing. Okay, that's what I can shift. It's actionable. It's, they can take the tips and implement it straight away.
Fantastic. I'll give you that URL one more time, genehammett.com/children, because our children are really the focus here. And it's about you understanding what's getting in the way. And I just, when I went through it earlier this week, I felt such a better awareness of some of the things I'm doing well, but also a few things I could do better at. And so I would encourage you guys to check out this training. And Yummii, I really appreciate you being here and sharing with us today.
Really appreciate you having me on the show, Gene. Thank you so much. And thank you for the work that you do.
Well, that was an incredible interview. I really love being able to share some different kind of content with you. My heart really pulls for anyone who's struggling at home with kids that don't understand them, or you don't understand your kids, because I really would love for you to take this seriously and improve this part of your life. This is all you get from me. I'd be honored to hear the impact that it's made. Listening to the training, go ahead and do that. But really just accept that you have to be able to evolve as a parent and as a person. And that will only help you improve, not only at home, but also at work. So I really believe this to be connected together in such a way. And I share this content with you just to make sure that you are playing at your highest level. When you think about growth and you think about leadership, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, through courage. We'll see you next time.